Web3 represents a new phase for the internet, one that is powered by blockchain technology, which enables decentralization and token-based economies. I'm Victor Muñoz, developer advocate at Metis, and what I have learned will make you wonder about our future. I'm excited to introduce the Web3 Devs podcast. Elena, what a pleasure for me to have this wonderful opportunity to have a conversation with you on this podcast. Um, this is the Web3 Devs podcast, and the idea is to have an open conversation about blockchain technologies, but certainly about also the experiences of people participating in this industry, right? So I wanted to start by asking you about your background in technology in general. So beyond, just blockchain, and also what initially drew you to start coding. Like, take me back to those years, if possible.
Yes, thank you so much, Victor, and pleasure all mine. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast, and I'm very excited to be the guest on the Web3 and developer podcast, which I am in Web3 and I am developer as well. Used to be a developer full time. My background, I never seen computer when I was like in school because they were not invented back then. Well, they were invented, but they were just too big to fit, even our school. So that's why we were studying to program on the calculators. But actually, I noticed even when we were doing that, I was good at it. So this basically defined my future. I wanted to go into the programming, and I found a university in Moscow. And myself, I am from like the small city in the middle of Russia, but yes, I moved to Moscow to study at this university. And at this university, I actually met Vitalik parents who studied with me in the same class at the university.
Oh,
And that's
interesting.
how we met in there. Yes, and um, we were all programming and we were all developers. And when we graduated, basically we went different paths. Some of us were developers, and I became developer, and I started, you know, working as a developer, and we moved to Canada as well. And I started working in Canada. I moved to Edmonton. I started working as first as a developer, then developer lead, then the architect, and I worked for a consulting
Hmm.
company that basically was providing services to the government and to police.
Got it.
And later, like years later, police actually hired me, and I worked for another 9 years. I worked at the police, programming all the things in the cars, the police cars, all the police systems, and also police information check and crime mappings. So all that was something that I did, and this application actually exists still nowadays, and police guys still use them, which I'm very proud of.
Of
And
course.
one of the systems that I programmed also for the Edmonton City Council, there's a meeting management system that I believe still used as well by the City Council in Edmonton. So,
Okay, I see.
so that
Very,
yes,
very interesting.
yeah, I had a lot of kind of like there was a lot of success and a lot of fun as well. So this is something I really really enjoyed. Like the development process itself.
And when you start coding, what was like the first programming language that you learned?
S- the very first that that I started like working at, it was actually Visual Basic. So that the Visual Basic was my very first language. And well, there was lots of I also did C and C++ and Java, and of course lots of JavaScripts in the web. And when I actually moved to Canada, I didn't know anything about web development, so I had to start from scratch. And I was hired as a web developer initially, so yeah, I had to do lots of JavaScripts. Yeah, and so that Visual Basic was my first language that I learned.
I see. Very interesting. And you mentioned something that I think that people that are starting in development in general sometimes they don't think about it, which is that some at some point you're going to learn one programming language and maybe you are going to become very good at it, but then things in life will happen, and for whatever reason you will have to start learning another completely different programming language from scratch, right?
Mhm.
So how do you go about that when you really have some knowledge and then you suddenly have to start from scratch? What is kind of your process to go about it?
Mhm. But basically, that applies to any profession. You know, it's not only in programming or programming languages. If you're a developer, if you learn one language, you actually you learn the principles, you learn them all. So it's not a big deal switching from language to language. It takes practice, of course, same as you learning new languages in language like English or Spanish. Or, yes, it just takes a practice. But yes, again, if you know the principles, it's already easier. And same if the developer getting into the business, and that's what I did as well. So it is also doable, right? So it all depends on the person. So you cannot say that, oh, it's so difficult. If you learn just one language, you have to be stuck with it till the end of the day. It's not so.
It doesn't
At
work
least
like that. Yeah.
if you stuck with it until the end of the time, so it's your problem. Have to look into that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so when you were starting your journey in tech, what was like the most difficult thing that you had to overcome?
Uh, Tech is not as different as in life. The most difficult problem that I had to overcome when I started working as a developer and to believe in myself, just um, to know if I cannot do it, then nobody can. It means that nobody can help me. Nobody dares to help me. So I have to rely on myself. I have to find the way to do it, and that was the probably the most difficult thing because yeah, when I was a student and I was a little girl, I was still relying on somebody knowledgeable, on some mentors and somebody to help. But once you start working, basically nobody can help you, and that's what was the most difficult thing for me, kind of like the mental change that I have to do it, there's no other way.
There is no, well, that's a great lesson there. Uh, I hope that people are listening this with a lot of attention because I think it applies to life in general. At some point, you're just not, you're going to be on your own, right? For whatever reason, and you have to be able to overcome challenges on your own without having to rely or without having the possibility of relying on others. And that's a really challenging situation for sure. So I wanted to ask you now about, I think that you kind of mentioned this, but just to, emphasize it more and talk more about like your first encounter with blockchain technology. How was that?
That was interesting. My first encounter was basically just installing a wallet, and it was difficult. It was I think it was a mist wallet that we I had to install to help my friend Natalia to get Ethereum onto this wallet. And at that point, actually, the circle was spinning and spinning, and nothing was nothing was happening. So we had to figure out how to do it. It took us a couple of hours, I think, to figure out. We installed it finally, but then I started digging into the what blockchain is and starting reading a lot of books, and one of the books actually kind of have the I had this aha moment, and that was so difficult for me to like as the developer, and the coming from the Web2 background of development. We always had client server, we had the web server, so all this architecture is very different in Web3, and therefore just kind of wrap my head around decentralization. That was the most difficult moment. From the school, they were teaching us all this, uh, architectures and the philosophy where everything has to be central control, and in
Mm.
blockchain is not so, right? So all that was kind of like the mental shift as well. So where this code is running, like is it running on a server? Like then if my application on a web server, how does the web server, how it contacts the, where's the smart contract, how do you access it? So all that was lots of questions that I had to resolve. And of course I did, not overnight, but that was like, the shift in the thinking in the centralized versus decentralized thinking. So that was the most difficult probably thing for me, but once it's done, everything else is easy.
Okay, I think I can kind of relate to that because it's not the same. Web2 development and Web3 development certainly is not the same, and you have to shift your mindset a little bit when working on that. You were you mentioned that you were trying to download a wallet and do some transaction with Ethereum, right? What exactly were you trying to do and try to achieve when you were playing with that?
Ah, no, that was my friend Natalia who needed to install a wallet on her computer, and that was a Windows computer, and just the installer wouldn't work. So I wasn't even doing it for myself. Yeah, I was just helping a friend, and yeah, so I had to go into forums and read and get help, and finally, yes, I remember that we succeeded after a couple of hours. We installed the wallet, but it was not easy. So that's why I had to reboot and do this and do that and change the setting, and yes, like jump through the hoop. So that was the my first experience, and I understood that this. So first of all, it's not common sense, it's not common knowledge. It's very difficult to find help in there, and it's also very difficult for people that are not developers to actually get and get hands on this technology.
Yeah, for sure. There are many components, and I think that you actually mentioned some of it. So maybe we can complement this with a question about like the technical challenges that you faced in blockchain technology. Which one of all would be the most challenging if you have to like kind of review your career?
Technical challenges in the blockchain technology. uh, of course,
That's right.
the security. I think that's the first and foremost. So no matter how secure, audited, and reliable, all the networks, smart contracts, everything is, there is still a chance for a backdoor to it, and that is the also the major thing. While blockchain technology is not adopted widely yet, because there's still possibility of the hacks, and because the code is changing all the time, and because there's no central kind of like central control on all the smart contracts, so you cannot make sure that everything is secure. So yes, here and there are hacks, and of course that mm, makes people hesitate when they engage with the blockchain technology. And also some hacks are very elaborate. So and as much as the developers and the smart contract get it more elaborate, so as the hackers as well. And that's the way it is, and I think this is the biggest challenge that we face in the blockchain technology. There are other challenges, lots of them, and we're solving them. So hopefully this one will be solved too, someday.
Hopefully. And on this same line, like, how do you envision that? Like, how can we solve the issues with security on your view?
To have a very clear processes for and for the people that are developers that are putting their code out there for everybody to use, to make sure that they are very diligent with their security processes. So every change, everything has to go through the audit. Like for example, just this is just one simple example, but there could be other processes that put in place, and also this process have to be described and maybe certified, so people that are using this contract or this application could see how diligent this developer is, that the code that they're going to use.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It makes me wonder about how will this look like this security space in Web3 in a couple of years. I think we are going to see a dramatic growth in the, in the people that are involved and agencies, freelancers. It's kind of an emergent market, I would say, but one that is pretty much needed, right?
Hmm.
So now I want to talk about Metis. And there are many questions that I could make about you and Metis and, technical things. But I really want to start by asking kind of the deepest question that I can think of, which is why does Metis exist under your view?
Hmm. Yeah, so back then, when you asked me the question of what was so difficult in Web3 for me to learn, uh, I also can answer like the thing that was difficult to learn. This thing was the most exciting as well. So when I learned about decentralization, I it's basically understood that all this, democracy that different countries, governments talk about, it actually does exist in this technology, in a decentralized technology. So we basically don't even need the governments to be able to put an order in the world, and we can just use the technology and this decentralized technology where we not depend on any central party, central authority. We're not getting influenced by anyone, and everybody can conduct business in a safe way through this decentralization technology, decentralized technology. So that this is something that I learned back then, and this is what Metis is actually giving people the possibility to live, to work, and to create business in the decentralized environment, and all the tools, all the infrastructure that we are building for it, we're building for this exact purpose, to conduct a business, to get a job, to make a living in a decentralized environment, so that you wouldn't worry about what technology you are in, and that you wouldn't worry about that somebody will block your account or prohibit you or sanction you. That is allow you, of course, within the laws and jurisdictions, to exist in this free environment without a fear. So that's what we build in at Metis, and that's why Metis exists.
Amazing. Uh, I think that this is an idea that many people can relate to, like in terms of the vision. And it's something that, at least for the people that have been building in the space and have understanding about like what is possible within a decentralized economy, everyone would agree with this vision one way or another. So yeah, really, really nice answer to that on why does Metis exist. And fast forward to the future, let's think about 10 years from now. Where do you see blockchain technology, and would that affect the role of Metis? Where do you see Metis in 10 years? And maybe if you expect some changes or something radical to change, maybe because of AI or because of laws or whatever. I would love to hear your thoughts on the future.
Yes, of course, since my vision is to do the business in a decentralized environment in 10 years, yes, um, I believe that everyone can create their own business, or apply and start working for the company that is decentralized, that conducting their business through decentralized environments, that the business can exist not in one jurisdiction but in many and many countries as well, and therefore they can work freely with each other, and all the infrastructure like transactions will be fast and cheap and very scalable, and that um, the holders of this network, the sequencers, that, as we call them, they will be in different countries and also decentralized as well. So not dependent, doesn't have any single point of failure, or not depending on any particular laws, or any particular jurisdiction or country, or doesn't belong to basically anyone, belong to people. So that is what I believe will happen, and that's what we're building for.
Amazing. It would be nice. It would be so nice to have this future that is truly decentralized and in which people can participate freely and engage in the ways they feel more comfortable with as well, right? It's a it's a bright future. It's a future that I think anyone who wants to contribute to help humans be more free can align with. So thank you so much for this short but nice podcast interview with me. I really appreciate that we have this opportunity to connect and talk. I'm 100% sure that we will have at least one or two or more opportunities to connect again on this podcast. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know if you have like any final words for the people that are hearing us right now so that they can get some inspiration about the future or maybe about Metis.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Victor. And yes, probably for our listeners, and especially for the Web2 developers who are, hearing us, and if you're thinking if you should switch to Web3 or at least explore Web3, for sure, please do. My life changed a lot when I did that. Yes, I went from my 9 to 5 job into the endless pool of opportunities. So in this world, I can be whoever. Yeah, I can be a Web3 developer, but I can be the business owner as well. And we see lots of Web3 developers that are turning into the business owners because that's what they're creating. They're creating their own Web3 businesses, and all these Web3 businesses can find home on our Metis network, which is layer two, that is decentralized. It's first decentralized layer two that is going to um, be already live this year, and also the transactions are very very fast, and of course they are super cheap and super affordable. And if you are curious about our vision, you can always go to our metis.io and read about what we're building. And we're building this decentralized economy for all. And thank you, Victor, for
Absolutely.
inviting me. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast.
For sure, for sure. It's been very, very fun, and I encourage everyone to try Metis because it's going to be a good experience. I can guarantee you that. So thank you everyone who joined us today. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned as more episodes will come pretty soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, or if you learned something new, please subscribe to this channel. It helps us more than you can imagine. See you on the next episode.